Good morning, everyone. I'm still, it looks like we're going. Good morning and happy Friday. I'm going to start off by showing you this magical Jack in the Box. Now, this was created by our good family friend, Miss Carolyn Tilley, very talented lady. It is a Ganesha Jack in the Box. Isn't that lovely? And there's Ganesha on the top too. Now, when it was fresh, when it was new, this Jack in the Box operated just like Jack in the Boxes do. But now it sort of doesn't work so well, and I don't want to take it too much apart to try to fix the music, because when it goes da 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 da, the lid pops up and out jumps Ganesha. I love my life. But anyway, I just did that because of the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel. And let's get him in on the show here. This is chapter 11, Pop Goes the Weasel. Pop Goes Ganesha. The epigram is a traditional nursery rhyme. All around the mulberry bush, the monkey chased the weasel. The monkey thought 'twas all in fun. Pop goes the weasel. A penny for a pool of thread, a penny for a needle. That's the way the money goes. Pop goes the weasel. I'm now going to describe to you a little ritual that whirled into my bag of magical tricks about 10 years ago. This is about 20 years ago now. I first created it to be a whimsical meditation that I could quickly perform mentally to begin and end my morning routine. But soon it became for me something more. In fact, within the context of its goofy simplicity, I found not only a powerful banishing ceremony, but also a profound and breathtakingly effective technique of invocation. It has become a key component to both my meditation and magical rituals, and because I'll be referring to it in several places in the chapter of this book that follows, I would like to share it with you now. It's one thing to have an intellectual grasp and appreciation of the great G, but it's quite another to allow oneself to gushingly melt in giddy adoration to it. I'll admit, as I was growing up, I had a real problem loving God. No, that's not quite correct. I had a problem loving what seemed to be the monster everyone around me was calling God. Nevertheless, as I grew older, I knew that if I was ever going to evolve into a sane and competent magician, if I ever hoped to perform a proper invocation and become duly and truly connected with the divine above, I would have to come to grips with my deep-seated negative attitudes. I would need to discover how to open my heart and fall in love with the great G and set off the divine love feedback I spoke about in yesterday's chapter. My first challenge was to settle on a tangible image a form, a name for this formless and most abstract of abstract spiritual concepts. It would seem logical that I would try to personify the great G in the likeness of one of the deities of my religion. After all, as a practicing Thelemite and archbishop of my church, my life is not bereft of gods and goddesses, foremost of which is a trinity of infinities that define the fundamental principles of the Thelemic cosmology. Nuit, the Egyptian goddess of the night sky, often depicted in Egyptian art as azure in color, tall and slender, arching over the earth. She's the infinity of an ultimately expanded universe, the circumference of a circle. Hadit, Nuit's lover, in Thelemic Egyptian iconography, is depicted as a winged solar disk. He is the infinity of an ultimately contracted universe, the point in the center of the circle. If Hadit were a phenomenon of physics, I see him in his most fundamental character as the pre-Big Bang singularity. Ra-Hoor-Khuit, the hawk-headed, crowned, and conquering child of the union of Nuit and Hadit, is the third one in the pantheon. Because Nuit's expansion, the infinite out, and Hadit's contraction, the infinite in, are both infinitely everywhere, so too must their points of contact. B. This infinite contact creates Ra-Hoor-Khuit, a field of operation in which the universe can operate and manifest. Nuit, Hadit, and Ra-Hoor-Khuit are perfectly lovely cosmic concepts, awesome, in fact, more than enough to qualify as proper deities to invoke. But as much as I love my religion and the iconography of ancient Egypt, and as much as I respect these profound concepts, I personally find it very difficult, at least initially, to get emotionally warm and fuzzy at the thought of loving and being loved by the cold, expanded universe, its dimensionless center, and everything that lies in between. I also consider myself a Hermetic Kabbalist, and as much as I worship the great G as the threefold negativities that precede creation, Ein, Ein Sof, and Ein Sof are, the concept of these three varieties of nothingness is as cool as modern jazz, and in my mind, catapult esoteric Judaism into the subtle stratosphere of Zen Buddhism and vice versa. I sip my virtual espresso and snap my beatnik fingers to applaud such hip, transcendent realities. But honestly, how can I be expected to warm up to these three wacky kinds of nothing? If my magical career was to evolve, I realized I would need to find a sweet and simple God upon whom I could project all infinite and sublime great G concepts that already held my soul in jaw-dropping awe. I needed to gather all my infinities and omna-everythings, I'm making up words again, and bundle them together into one irresistible and lovable package. And so I set to work combining the pantheons of I set to work combing the pantheons of the world's religions, great and small, in search of a deity whose image and character resonates with my own peculiar menu of spiritual programming. About 10 years ago, I settled ever so comfortably on a deity that fills the bill perfectly. The pot-bellied remover of obstacles, Ganesha. Now, before you read anything unduly sectarian into my special relationship with Ganesha, I want you to know that I do not claim to be a devotee of Ganesha in the orthodox sense of the word. I do not belong to any Ganesha cults or sects. I don't travel to Ganesha pujas or festivals, nor have I memorized the 108 names of Lord Ganesha, although they are wonderful beyond words. Also, please be clear on this. I'm not advocating that you or anyone else need to select the image, character, or concept of Ganesha as your tangible icon of the intangible supreme consciousness of the cosmos. It's your life, your spiritual cosmos, your magic. You are your own magician. Get your own god. If Ganesha floats your great G devotional boat, fine. It's no business of mine or anybody else's. Everything I'm about to describe in the following little banishing and invoking ritual can just as easily be applied using the character and image of any deity or object of your devotion, or any character or anything of your choosing. I chose Ganesha because when I travel in vision to the throne room of the supreme consciousness of the great G, I can instantly and effortlessly imagine that I'm beholding the all-loving and beautiful sweet face of Ganesha. My heart swells and overflows with a current of love for the divine. I can joyously plunge my soul into the massive and cozy heart of that deity. But just as easily, I find myself totally receptive to that same flow of divine love and bliss coming from Ganesha. And herein lies the key. Once I became comfortable with my new relationship with the great G in the image and personality of Ganesha, I automatically began to acknowledge his presence and enlist his blessing and guidance prior to embarking on any serious undertaking. His huge ears were perpetually attuned to my prayers. His unjudgmental eyes lovingly bore witness to my noblest thoughts and deeds and my vilest vices and vanities. At day's end, I comfortably rested in the folds of his great curled trunk as he rocked me to sleep. Okay, I confess, I was dangerously close to becoming a Ganesha nut. No offense to real Ganesha nuts. I seriously thought about memorizing his 108 attributes. Lord of the whole world, remover of obstacles, beloved and lovable child, moon-crested Lord, master of poets, Lord of music, huge pot-bellied Lord. Boy, could I identify with that. One who is easy to appease, destroyer of all obstacles and impediments, etc. But I'm a lazy man. And as my Lord Ganesha is easy to appease, I resolved that I would simply chant his name 108 times as a mantra prior to meditation or magic, or in quiet moments before my lectures or musical performances, or indeed before I did anything important. A friend gave me a rosary of 108 beads, and for a while I used that to help me count off the Ganeshas. Sadly, I ended up leaving it behind in an airplane seat somewhere between Copenhagen and London. I felt kind of funny using the rosary in public anyway, because when I flew, and I fly a lot, The other passengers looked at me like I was some kind of white-haired terrorist saying my last suicidal prayers. No, I needed a quick and easy way to silently and secretly chant the name Ganesha 108 times while counting on my fingers. After much experimentation, I discovered that it was the perfect technique. I determined that if I sang the word Ganesh or Ganesha repeatedly to the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel, I need only sing 4 1/2 verses. Each full verse equals 24 repetitions of the divine name. So, one full verse is, and 4 1/2 verses, 108. Ganesh, 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 Ganesha, Ganesh, 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 Ganesha. 12. Ganesh, 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 Ganesha, Ganesh, 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 Ganesha. That's 24, 4 1/2 rounds of that. Count them on your fingers. It works perfectly. I just kept track on my fingers of one hand. I can do it while driving. I can do it mentally while standing in line at the airport. I can do it while flying without alarming my fellow passengers. I eventually discovered I could do it to both banish my magical circle and invoke the great G. In order for you to appreciate the simplicity of this little ritual, you need to understand the magical dynamics of how the magician moves about the temple in ritual in order to initiate and direct the flow of energy that either invokes or banishes a specific magical force. Now I'm going to look at the clock. I've already gone 17 minutes with this reading. I could break it up and finish it off tomorrow. Which I think I better do because I don't want to skimp. So tomorrow we'll pick it up again and I will describe the ritual in detail and show you how easy it will be for you to do something similar to this yourself. So tomorrow, Saturday, we'll continue with the invocation ritual meditation of Ganesha. Until tomorrow, then, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Have a great weekend, everyone.